What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dad Approach podcast. I'm joined by my lovely co-host here, Britton Holman, and I'm Steven Hosh. And let's get this thing started.
All right, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do this.
Alrighty, so today we have a bunch of awesome topics for everybody. The main one being we're going to talk about sort of the postpartum experience and sort of how both of us handled that and sort of what were the trials and tribulations that we both went through. Along with that, we have a couple side topics that we like to go over, and one of them being sleep training. How did that sort of like impact our postpartum experience, and again, sort of what both of us went through that as well. And then thirdly, we're going to go through sort of like the early routines and where they started and sort of the evolution of those routines and essentially where we are now with those. So yeah, we got some good topics. So I guess we can kind of get started with, what's going on this week with you, Britton? How's everything going in the house?
Yeah, this week's been good. We are one day away from the Super Bowl. For those who are listening, I'm wearing my Seattle Seahawks jersey, ready to go for.
I should have been wearing I should have worn one of my jerseys. I thought about it. I have a Seahawks hat, but it's honestly I started using it for my outside. Like I go mow the yard or whatever, yeah. And so the hat is not like a clean looking hat. So I need to get another one along with the new jersey, but. Yeah.
But yeah, so right to that overall, I know this week hasn't been super eventful. One of the things that's been kind of fun is Cece has been talking, I say talking, more like babbling a lot more, but she can say like mama and dada, and she has this thing that she's been doing that me and her kind of play with is she'll go like da, and I'll go da, and then she'll go da da. And then I'll repeat it, da da, and then she'll go, da, and I'll go, da, and basically she'll just change like volumes and tone, and she'll always do it while like snuggling next to me, and it's precious.
Adorable.
So yeah, I know it's great.
I know, I can't wait. One hand, I'm anxious to have Sienna start talking, and then the other end, I'm like, when she starts talking, then that means she'll probably start talking back. So I don't know how that's going to go. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword when it comes to that.
It's very similar. Like that was what we said about her being able to crawl and move around. Like we were so excited to her, like getting to be mobile and, like explore things. We're like, oh, this is going to be the best. And now that she literally doesn't stop moving, it is now like, man, can you go back to when we laid you down? You would just stay exactly there.
I know. It's like, it's such a weird, like not even a catch-22, but I guess sort of where like you're excited about what's next and the next milestones and them getting bigger, which I definitely am. But at the same time, it's like what comes with those milestones is, at your point, you have a baby that's moving a lot more. And so now you got to like really be on edge and make sure that you're on top of everything and paying attention to things where, whereas where Sienna is right now at her current age, she's not there. She's just learning to roll over. So, obviously
you're getting close, man.
Places.
I know. Close. Yeah. And then the other thing is Cece has been obsessed with food lately. She's like, we just gave her. I know, right? We just gave her chili last night, and man, she just devoured that like nothing. Like
what
she was covered chili.
Chili, okay.
Yeah. So, it was just hilarious. Like she was just covered in it, and then. Brute, one of our dogs, likes to sit right beneath her high chair, and he'll jump up, and he still has chili stains all over his face. It's hilarious. Like we wiped it some, but it's just there. He needs a haircut. But yeah, no, week's been good. How about you, man? How's your week been?
It's been pretty uneventful as well, other than what we kind of just talked about. Sienna's definitely getting much more independent and learning how to roll on her side herself, less us having to intervene. She's still like, I think I kind of previously mentioned where she can go one way. She's still kind of learning to go back the other way, but we're seeing it a lot more, especially like when she wakes up in the morning, like first thing you put her out and you try to do any tummy time. Like I even like recorded a video today and sent it to my sister and my mom, and like she was just like instantly rolling over, and then I'd flip her back, help her kind of flip back, and then she was instantly rolling again, so she's really like utilizing that new skill that she's learned. So
That's awesome.
That's super awesome to see. So that's kind of like the next thing is, trying to get her to learn how to roll back over on her own. But I mean, other than that, mostly my wife is going to be going back to work soon. I believe she goes back in like 10 days, like 17th, 18th. So I guess for us right now, it's sort of like having those conversations about, what does life look like when she's back at work and sort of prepping for that. So I've been not slowly, but I've been trying to take over a little bit more responsibilities that maybe she was doing or is doing currently. So I'm really trying to make sure, because I'm the person that's staying home. So it obviously just makes more sense for me to be the person that's going to, take over, 90% of the bills and, make sure getting like sort of the baby routine down a little bit more. And just sort of the daily life stuff. So that way that she can just kind of focus on getting back to work and then getting back into her routine with work and getting caught up. And then maybe once she's kind of back in her groove with work, then all the rest of those things will, sort of work themselves out. So that's
absolutely.
That's really mostly it. Nothing too wild, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you want to jump in it?
Yeah, let's jump in our postpartum experience. This is obviously a journey that I think is still going. It's an ongoing experience. Don't know if there's like a finite cutoff sort of time about when someone's going through it, but
no. My wife actually, I was talking to her earlier today when we were like in preparation for this topic and in preparation for just all the things, and I was asking her like how that experience was for her, and it was interesting because she was like, well, really what's been happening is that like, it takes like 1 to 2 years for your body to actually go back to normal, like to be able to do all of the things that you normally are able to do. And she was saying like, even though like you've seen like me becoming like more, like, I don't want to use the word stable because that sounds like she was just unstable.
Like
she wasn't unstable.
Like normal, sort of just even
and
keeled, I guess.
She was saying like, all those ups and downs are still there. It's just she's learned to manage them much better. Yeah. And so it's so like. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. You can continue going with your.
Oh no! Honestly, I wasn't real. I was just kind of mumbling. I was just going to kind of say that, I mean, mostly with this topic, we're kind of going over a little bit about what the experience was like, but also like what were some of the things that we utilized, and how did we get through it, or how are we managing it, either day to day, week to week, whatever. And what does that look like? Some of the tools that I used, which, were pretty straightforward stuff, but at least on my part early on, this is even before we even had the baby. I decided, like, as corny as it sounds or whatever, I was like on TikTok and I was like scrolling through, and you know how the TikTok algorithm is. It's like where once, you talk into your phone or you send a video or you start, liking or whatever a video, it picks up your algorithm. So I started getting a lot more like dad TikToks and all that stuff. And so I had this like, I think this like ad popped up or something. It was like this book. And I actually had the book here with me, and it's called You Will Rock as a Dad. And so I can't tell, actually I can't really tell if it's showing to it here, but this is the book. It's like this simple book that I got, and it's basically a book that just kind of goes over sort of once you're pregnant, like it's like the before, during, and after, like what does the postpartum look like as well. And so it just kind of gives you an idea of like what to expect. And, what is your wife going to be going through? What are some of the things that the baby's probably going to be going through? And then how can you best suit yourself to like handle those scenarios or handle those things in general? And so it was just like kind of it's a super thin book, you know what I mean? Like it's nothing like heavy reading. And so I just kind of read that, and it helped me kind of mentally prep for a little bit to know what to expect even during the pregnancy. And so it was nice because it just kind of helped me mentally prep a little bit about some of those situations. And so, among that, reading that book, there was also, like videos and other articles and stuff that you just read. And usually if you're a curious dad, like you're kind of just like, okay, what should I be doing? Or what should I be mentally preparing for?
Yeah.
All those things. So you kind of know what's coming a little bit. And then, if you're hit with a curveball, then you kind of, can kind of understand how maybe you should react to it or handle it kind of thing. So,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, the process of me preparing was a little bit of a mix. So I went through some of what to expect, which is mostly geared towards moms or women who are pregnant. But I also wanted to read it and have that understanding too through that process. The military had a lot of different resources for new parents. And so one of the things that I did was attend like a dad's class, and which went over a bunch of research, bunch of information, which is obviously my cup of tea. And yeah, it was actually really cool just to be there with other like soon to be first time dads about like, asking all kind of the weird questions that that come up. That's like, this is weird to ask, but I got to ask anyway. Yeah, it was really good. The other aspect I think is in preparation was just a lot of conversations with Amanda and like certain expectations, which was helpful. Of course, like, and we'll talk about this in a bit, but when it actually came to that point where there's actually moments where like I thought I knew what her needs were, but it wasn't necessarily those needs that I thought they weren't actually what she needed. And there was like a miscommunication there. And we'll talk about that in a bit, because I think that's important to talk about too. Like how like we can think we know what our spouse needs, but in reality it's something very different. And so, yeah.
I mean, to kind of piggyback on that, I think you can have the conversations prior to like having your child and stuff like that, but I don't even think that she will know, like they would know before having the child what they might want or need at that point in time, until you actually get to that. And even in the middle of that, that's when they're kind of they're learning and figuring out what is exactly they want or they need. And maybe they think they know, but that's not actually what they want. So it can be very confusing. And that's why when you're kind of going through the postpartum experience, especially early on, you really have to practice a lot of patience. And I mean, communication, honestly, like the most cliche thing is, communication has to be consistent between you both. You have to make sure that you're staying on the same page and really understanding, what each other's needs are as you're kind of learning them. And, as the dad, you really have to, it does feel like it takes a little bit more work on your side as far as like, is being patient and being as understanding as possible. Because you have to understand that maybe they don't know what they want in the moment yet. And so just having that sort of patience to really kind of understand that they're figuring it out too, and you're kind of getting through it together. And I think that's kind of been like one of the biggest things that I really had to like sort of absorb and understand myself, was like just as much, just kind of practice as much patience as possible. I've seen plenty of videos like that kind of make fun of, sort of the postpartum experience where, the father says something, or even if he's joking or whatever, it's not even anything serious, but they're joking about something. And then the mom kind of like snaps or whatever. It's very confusing. And then the guy's like, oh, damn. You know what I mean? Like, and then they get a little bit upset about it, because they're like, oh, geez, I was just playing. And it's like, maybe your partner isn't necessarily like meaning to react that way or have that kind of response or whatever. And so you have to kind of practice on your side that sort of like patience and understanding to really, be like, okay, they don't really mean what they're saying. There's a lot of hormones going on right now. And to have that sort of perspective, I think is huge, especially early on. And as you said before too, as you kind of go through the journey and as time goes on and as things mellow out and things get a little bit more stable, because, mothers are going to get hit again once they stop breastfeeding. Then they get hit with another wave of their hormones going down again and have this influx of hormones changing again. So it's like you get hit with the first wave after birth, and then once they stop breastfeeding, depending on when that is, they get hit again. So it's like this long journey, depending on how long they're doing that, for them to be stable, and to get back to what they might feel like is themselves. And even then, it's physically after them going through like actually, giving birth and having the baby than physically, along with the hormones and the mental sort of side of things. How long is it going to take for them to feel like themselves again after that? And that's the mother's journey. And as a father, like again, it's just having that perspective and understanding and patience and all the things that I keep saying. You really have to be aware of that. Yeah, you have to be aware of that, hyper aware of that, and just continue to kind of sort of practice what you're preaching throughout the entire journey.
Yeah. The thing I remember, it's been, coming up on 10 months, since Cece was born. And it was funny, like I was saying this morning as I was like thinking through like what was the experience like? Like it's funny, like my memory of the situation is so spotted. Yeah. And I think it's just because not sleeping, not encoding new memories, it's just all just blurred together. The main thing I remember, it was funny, and I was reflecting this with Amanda, and she said something. This is why, even as two psychologists, you can still be surprised by, like, oh, we probably should have talked about that. I was reflecting, like, one of the things I remember was like always wanting her to take a little bit of time for herself, to do something, to do her own thing. And, but, and I mentioned like that was hard for her to do for a variety of reasons. And she was like, actually in the moment, that's not what I needed. So I'm like, well, what do you mean? And she said that for me, what I need for regulating all like the different hormones, all these different things is like skin to skin contact, is connection, is that deep aspect. What I actually needed was people to do everything else for me. So like, and to do it in a way without me even asking or suggesting. So
sorry,
like
to make sure, like you're saying that she wanted the physical side of thing, or are you saying that's your preference and then hers is to do everything, or is it vice versa?
No. So basically for her, when, and thanks for asking for clarifications, for her, when she was, when Cece was born, like she was talking about, like, there's this weird biological drive, at least for her, there was this aspect where she wanted to be with Cece at all times, basically. And so like have that physical contact, not really wanting to give her up that much, which honestly makes perfect sense, especially with her knowing that she's going to eventually have to return to work and all those pieces.
They call that the third wheel father, because that was actually one of the like tropes that I looked up that fathers can kind of get into, or it's like a trope that you fall into, which is called like the third wheel father, where the mother and the child have this really big bond, and the mother is like, has the child, and the father's kind of on the outside looking in, and it's like, I'm here too, like, hey, I want to help, you know what I mean? So,
for sure. And so like with that, so like me like trying to be supportive by saying like, hey, let me take Cece so you can go take a nap. Let me take Cece so you can do this. Let me take Cece so you can take a shower. And she was, my wife is lovingly blunt. And she was like, yeah, that was useless. Like, okay, great. And, and so,
and your wife's a little bit more blunt than mine. She would just be like, nah, I'm good. She's like, I don't need that. Like, I'm good.
Yeah. And so, it's a military background, so I say no. And really what she was needing, and this was the part where I was saying earlier that I missed, was that like she needed someone to basically take care of everything around her. So like, I'm not a breakfast person, right? But she is. She needs breakfast at all times, and it was something that I didn't just think to make breakfast right when I got up, right? Because that wasn't in our routine. And so like, she was like, no, like I needed you to do all, like basically everything else. And I was like, oh, and I, obviously it's not that I didn't do nothing, but it was that aspect of like certain aspects of the routine that I didn't really even think about, that, oh, that was what she needed. It wasn't that she needed time. She could care less about that. She wanted everything else done for her. And I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it sounds like a very similar experience to what I had, where
Hmm.
you're trying to offer up assistance, and you see your wife kind of like handling the baby, and whether she be
Hmm.
struggling or whatever it is, like maybe the baby's crying, whatever, and you're
Hmm.
kind of like, your first natural instinct as a dad and a partner, and as a husband, you're like, I want to help. Like, and this is
Yep.
probably a men thing in general. Most men, I'm not going to speak for all men out there, at least for me, heavily. Like with my
Hmm.
significant other, my wife, whatever, people I love, if I see you struggling, you need help, my first instinct is to fix it. Like, what can I
Hmm.
do to fix the problem? How can we eliminate this problem? How can we prevent it from happening going forward?
Hmm.
And that's not like, my wife she's told me, and that's with us being together for so long, I've heard this
Hmm.
before, and sometimes it's hard for me to sort of change that natural, innate, sort of like organic thing that's wired into my brain, where like that's my reaction to it. I
Hmm.
have to literally like stop, think about it, think about what's happening, think about what she's saying, and then be like, how do I approach this, right? Is this one of those moments where she's saying she needs this, but in reality she actually wants this other thing? So I really have to like kind of like think about that. And afterwards, once I've kind of realized, okay, this is probably one of those moments where she doesn't really need me to kind of take the baby. What are the things that I could do outside of that? And
Yeah.
so I found myself, that's kind of a segue into our next top. Well, not really. Like one of our other topics as far as like
Hmm.
routines go,
Yeah.
but that's where it's kind of helped shape our routine as it is today, because I understand that, because Sienna, she sleeps with us. She is not. She's she's a Velcro baby, so she
Hmm.
sleeps with us. So she sleeps with my wife, and she's kind of slept with the bassinet here and there, but
Hmm.
99% of the time, 98% of the time, she is with my wife. And so my wife essentially is the person that's caring for the child through the night. She's the one that has to
Hmm.
wake up with her, and then I go make the bottle really quickly with our handy dandy formula coffee machine, which is a
Hmm.
godsend. Basically, I think it's amazing because it's like I sprint out there, makes it in a few seconds, I come running back,
Yeah.
and
So
then I can
great.
kind of lay back down, and then she feeds the baby, kind of thing. So
Hmm.
when we wake up in the morning, uh, she wakes up earlier, and so when she takes the baby out, when I wake up, maybe an hour and a half after that, I make sure I get up, I make breakfast every day, and then get a coffee if that's what we're doing for every day, clean up stuff, whatever, get stuff prepped. There's even, prior to that, before she actually wakes up, I get up really quickly. When I go to grab a bottle, I have to because we turn all the heat down at night, because A, we're trying to save
Hmm.
on money.
Yeah.
B, it is better, like for us and the baby, for it to be a little bit cooler. It helps them get sleep,
Hmm.
helps all of us stay asleep. So it gets a little bit cold in the morning, as it naturally does. And
Yep.
so I get up, turn the heater on, turn the heater on for the house,
Yep.
and just kind of warm up the house a little bit. So by the time that my wife and Sienna are ready to get up, then it's warmer, and then they can
Hmm.
do their kind of like morning routine. So there's like little stuff like that in
Yeah.
between that I've tried to make sure that I'm consistently doing that. I'm being aware
Yep.
of those things, picking those things up.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think we've kind of had like a very similar experience when it comes to that. Whereas
Yeah.
we thought we knew,
Yep.
what our partners needed, and then
Then things
it's
was
like,
like,
well,
oh,
no, it's actually these other things, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
um,
and like thankfully, like because again, as I said in the beginning, my memory was foggy. And she reminded me of that situation, and it was funny because obviously like that was an easy adjustment to make, to start doing those pieces, to making sure that she had breakfast every morning, all those different things. And I think like there's this aspect where it's like, oh, well, why didn't, she just communicate it? Well, it's like when you're going through, like we talked about all those postpartum changes and all the craziness, like you don't think to communicate those things. And
yeah.
so it's part of that aspect where that situation where it's like, it wasn't on her that those things didn't
But
happen.
it's also like I would say it's a men thing again, where
Yeah.
we're very much of the mindset of communicate to us, tell us what you need. We
Yep.
need you to tell us what it is, and we will do it. We have no problems with whatever it is, but
Yeah.
we do not want to be mind readers. We want to know what is it that you
Mhm.
need. And
Mhm.
women typically end up being kind of the other spectrum, where they're like, we want you to kind of just see these things and then just automatically pick them up and then do those things.
Yep.
And so it's like very conflicting, obviously, because we're expecting one thing, they're expecting another. And so naturally that just kind of happens. And, some of those things you kind of work out those kinks a little bit throughout your relationship and your marriage or whatever. And I mean, that's even, I've been with my wife for 13 years total at this point, and I still like have periods where I'm like, I don't want to mind read. I need you to communicate. And then she's like, well, this is how I view it. And I'm like, I get it. But like, we gotta meet somewhere in the middle somehow. You know what I mean? Like we still have those problems.
I know.
So,
This is, I totally agree. Like, this is where it gets really confusing, because it's like, and I get it. Like, sorry, my mind's going a lot of different places. That's why I say I get it. Like, I get why women say those things and why, and I can't really say in the stereotypical, because I know guys that do the exact same thing. But I think that what I see that happen, or what I breathe, Britton. What I see happen quite often is that many people don't want to necessarily have to ask for everything, because then that puts the pressure on them to state their needs, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas it's very natural for them, or at least those people that tend to want the other people to see their needs, to just fulfill other people's needs like organically. Mm-hmm. And so it gets tricky, because it's like when they ask for the things that they want, that is helpful and good communication. And like you said, there's that balance where that can't be for every single thing, because if they have to ask every single time, then now all the pressure and onus is on them, and we get to sit and do nothing until we're asked. Right.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets tricky.
Yeah. Well, I also want to like add to that. It's funny because like the conversation we're having is kind of a conversation that my sister and I had a little while back. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I was telling her is that in a lot of those situations where maybe she's expecting me to read her mind, I'm asking her to communicate, sometimes there's nuances to the situation. There's context that maybe someone else doesn't have, or they don't understand that. Maybe the reason why I didn't just do something was because maybe previously we had a very similar scenario, and she said, hey, I don't want you to do that. I don't need you to do that. Right. Like there's a reason why, like, I'm trying to think of a scenario that I had where we kind of had this issue where there's a nuance and there's context that's missing. So there's a reason why I didn't automatically do something, and it's kind of slipping my mind what it is. But essentially, if there's something like, I wanted you to take the baby and go into the room and put her down to sleep. And I believe it was, I'm trying to remember for us, but I believe there was a situation where we were kind of talking about how Sienna, like if I try to walk around with her, and at least at the time, this is probably like 2-3 weeks ago at this point, things change very quickly with a small baby. She doesn't like, she would kind of hang out with me holding her and walking around or whatever. But like if she was upset, she would stay upset. Yeah. But with my wife, for whatever reason, my wife could walk around with her and she would kind of calm down and she wouldn't really cry too much or whatever, whether that be just their connection or what, I don't know what it was, whatever it was. But that was just sort of what we lived in. So we had I had mentioned something to her where I was like, hey, I'd walk around, but like, it doesn't work with me. So unfortunately, you're the one that she does that with. So, and when she's getting upset and we say, hey, someone needs to walk around with her, it's like, well, you're the person that can actually calm her down in this scenario. So it's kind of like a given that you're the person that's going to be doing that, because it's pointless with me. And I think maybe from her perspective, it was like, well, let's at least try. Let's try to, work on that and see if we can get that to kind of change. Yeah. And my head was like, well, in my head, I'm like, well, that's not going to work. So why even bother trying, kind of thing. And so there's a little bit of nuance and context. So when it happens again later on down the line, I'm not going to do the thing, because in my head, I'm like, well, there's no point. So even if in that situation, my wife was getting overstimulated and she was getting frustrated. So instead of me just taking ownership in that situation and just figuring it out and kind of just trying to, take the baby, give her some relief and get some, space, I didn't do the right thing doing that. And I let her get overstimulated in that moment. And then, it eventually turned into like a little bit of an argument, because she's like, okay, well, why you see me having this problem? Why don't you just try to take the baby and help me? So yeah, so there's like stuff like that. There is weird nuance and context to your relationship and anyone else out there, like what's going on between you and your partner. There are things like that where there is some weird nuance. So someone that's on the outside looking in, like, oh, Steven, you should have known. And it's like, okay, well, what I just told you is the nuance and context as to why my brain is thinking something specifically, right? So why I didn't automatically do it. Taking a step back, it's like, okay, well, I should have done this. I should have tried to figure it out. I should have found another way. Whatever it is, I can clearly tell that my wife is being overstimulated. She's struggling. I need to do this, which kind of segues a little bit into something else that I wanted to talk about, which is still along the same vein of the conversation.
Yeah.
But something that I'm realizing now quickly, and this stemmed from the conversation that I had from my sister a couple weeks ago, that sometimes, like, when we get into that third wheel dad situation where you see the mom, they have this really intense connection and they're handling the baby and they're doing all these things with the baby. It's easy, and not easy, but it happens with the dad where you feel like you're kind of on the outside looking in. You're like, hey, I'm here to help. I'm here to help. That's not how you should be thinking about it. You shouldn't be thinking about it as help. You're the father. You're the partner. You are 50-50 split. You shouldn't be the help. You should be the partner in the situation. So you should be taking ownership of that half and being like, I'm going to take the baby. And, you can have that conversation with love. You don't have to be mean about it. You don't have to be cruel or anything like that. You can find a way to approach it in a loving way and say, I'm taking the baby. You don't even have to say, I can tell you're overstimulated. Just be like, go ahead and rest. Go do what you know. I'm taking the baby. Like, instead of just being like, can I take the baby? Do you want me to? Like, don't pose it as a question. You just do it, right? And so that's something that having a conversation with my sister kind of really helped me kind of understand it. She kind of exposed that for me, because that was how I was feeling. Because I was like, I'm the dad. Like, I'm the partner. I help make this child too, right? You're like, I want to.
Careful.
I want to be there.
Careful.
Okay. The little bit that I did, right?
Yeah, the little bit.
Sure, I didn't literally like create her, but
there you go.
I mean, again, nuance, context, whatever. It's like I'm the partner here. I'm the child's father. Like, I want to be an equal partner in this child's life. I don't want to just be the person that's in the background, like, oh, I'll help whenever you need it. Because I want to be active in this. I want to be a part of this. I want to make sure that I'm doing all these things. And so, that really kind of like highlighted that for me and really kind of helped me get like kind of an epiphany, but just helped me really kind of understand and gain a little bit more perspective of how I felt about the situation and how I could approach it going forward. And that way it benefits both of us. That way my wife's getting the support that she feels like she needs. And then I also feel like I'm getting the, what's the word I'm looking for? The, not interaction, but the contribution, I guess, that I'm looking for. I rambled on for a bit, but that's just kind of something that I came up on or kind of realized recently.
Yeah, I know it's interesting to think of like how things have progressed. Because like her being 10 months, like, and again, it is funny how this is kind of linking a lot to our other topic of early routines and how they have shifted. But like, I think about like what I do now versus what I did before regarding like helping her whenever she has those days that are ups and downs, or helping her have the days when she has those downs. And like, kind of similar to what you said about just taking Cece, like literally just, was that last night or the night before? Actually, I think it was also last night, right, Emily? Amanda did like, she was feeling pretty good. She did she went on a quick run with Cece, and then we had Cece sit down for dinner. It was when she had the chili and got it all over her. And so Amanda almost always does Cece's night routines. It's because I typically work during those times. And I don't work on Fridays, and so when she went for her bath, like typically like she would have taken a quick bath and then gotten out and then done Cece's night routine because she actually likes that. But this was one of those moments where it's like, okay, she had a really busy week. She had some crazy stuff go down and she's just resting. So it's like, I didn't even think twice. I just literally did Cece's entire night routine and bedtime routine without asking, without suggesting or going to the bathroom. Hey, did you want to do the night routine? Because that, like you said, it's a partnership. Like, and as you know your partner, Whereas you get to know your partner, you get to know those nuances of when to step in. And I think sometimes out of fear, it's like, oh, we don't want to overstep. We don't want to do the wrong thing. And sometimes we
Yeah.
do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But I would rather be doing something than just be completely in the background waiting to be asked. Because at that point, that's when we start getting the stereotypical dad as a babysitter. Yeah. I'm feeling like instead of going to sleep training, we should jump into early routines.
Yeah, that was definitely what I was going to say too. I wanted to sort of segue into one of our other topics, which we've already been partially covering.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pausing. Sorry for editing purposes. I was pausing. I was trying to give you an opportunity.
Oh,
this is for the editing floor. I was trying to give you just a space to breathe. So sorry, future Britton editing. I was more of like, yeah, we can go into it, and then I was kind of looking over, and then whatever. Future Britton, hello. This is your editing block.
I'm going to keep this in.
People are like, what the hell is going on, dude? Anyways, so early routines and sort of how they've evolved. I think for my sake, I mentioned it earlier where right now, or I would say early on, my wife and I, especially that first week, I remember the first week we literally, because, our baby, she had we thought she was colicky, which colicky is not really a thing. Like colic is just a word to describe something that, that happens with babies that people don't really know. Like whether your baby's fussy or there's just a problem that your baby has that makes them upset a lot of times. And you can't really describe what it is, or you don't really know what it is. So typically doctors or people kind of just describe it as colic. But reflux is what our child deals with, which early on, we didn't know that. We didn't know that yet. When you're so fresh out, coming home from the hospital and stuff, like you're trying to, understand your baby's cues and stuff like that. You don't know. And you're like, wait, I fed her. I burped her. I changed her diaper. She got sleep. Like, why is she still upset? All those things. And early on, we stayed out in the living room because we couldn't I believe we couldn't get her to really sleep in the bedroom at the time. And so we were just camped out in our living room for the first week. I was just in our baby chair, our reclining chair. I'd take her, and then my wife was on the couch, and we just had a little sleepover out in the living room. That's where we hung out for the first week or so of when we got home. And something that changed from that point, or sort of evolved from that point, was we realized that it needed to become a little bit more, instead of us both always trying to do everything at the same time, us both trying to be the entertainers, changing the diapers, doing all those things, feeding everything always at the same time. We need to take advantage of certain scenarios where if someone's doing one thing, the other person can go do something else if they need to. If you will both want to do that, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to sit there and act like, oh, well, if your wife's feeding the baby, you should be going and cleaning, or you should be doing that. Just whatever, makes sense for your family, or whatever makes sense for you at the time. In our case, in my story, if I know that if you leave a house, and again, this is not a shot at anybody, but if you leave your house kind of to get a little bit too crazy for too long, your brain literally just gets caught up in the clutter. It causes a little bit more chaos, which then causes a little bit more stress and anxiety with those things. I'm pretty sure it's a proven thing that literally you have clutter and stuff like that your brain kind of just it's harder for you to really kind of focus on stuff like that. And so in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I don't want my house to get too crazy. So if my wife is feeding her and my baby's kind of calm at that point, I'm going to take advantage of the few minutes to go clean our bedroom. I'm going to go clean the dishes, or I'm going to go take out the garbage. I'm going to go do this, right? Or clean up the living room, all that good stuff, right? I'm taking advantage of that time. That's what works for us. You know what I mean? And so that's where my brain goes, is because when I wasn't doing that early on, I noticed that my wife and I it was one of those things where you could just see things were stacking on top of it. You're already kind of overwhelmed with the baby. And then when you didn't have the baby or whatever, then you kind of look at your house and you're like, oh, man, I got to do laundry. I got to do this, right? You got all these things and you're just like, oh man. So it just kind of piled more stuff onto us. And so one of the things that we realized was we kind of got to split that time up when someone's not doing something. And so that was kind of one of the routines, I guess you could consider a routine, not necessarily an actual routine, where I know for myself, I chose to take advantage of certain situations after a little while where if my wife was feeding the baby or she took her down for a nap, that was my opportunity to decompress. It was my opportunity to do a chore. I don't know. Sometimes early on, when I was getting a lot more lack of sleep, maybe take a nap too as well. All those kinds of things, right? It's just an opportunity to do that. So that was something that has kind of evolved over time, and I still do that. It's even better now because we're starting to get to a point where we have a pretty. We don't. It's not like CC where you have more of like a structured. Like I know she's going down at this time, usually for this amount of time, and then she's going to go down again at this time for this amount of time. We're not there yet, but I can basically, I know at this point that Sienna's going to be up for about an hour at a time. Yeah. And then she's going to go down for 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. And then she'll be up again for another. So I kind of know what that schedule looks like overall now that we're at 3 months. So things can be a little bit more predictable. So I can be like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go clean this, or now that I'm caught up on everything, I might actually just sit down and watch an episode or two of some anime that I'm watching or a show or play a little bit of the game that I want to play, which I usually end up doing that later at night. But yeah, that's one of the things that I personally had to kind of learn, or my wife and I both kind of came to a conclusion that just worked better for us. And that's how we kind of wanted to handle things. Yeah, that's just like one of the things I did. I don't know if you have something that you kind of have something that started differently.
Yeah. So really our routine, it's really funny. Like our routine is mainly based off of CC's sleep schedule to a point. And the reason why I say to a point is because early on, we made it a point to not let her sleep schedule impact opportunities. So like I say opportunities like going to hang out with some friends or going out for dinner for a special occasion. Like if it conflicts with her sleep schedule, like we want her to build that resiliency. And we also know it just means maybe for a rougher night, Yeah. So basically when we started out, like we were pretty rigid about like when she would get up to have food. Cause I mean, and this is where we get to talk about like the differences in our experiences because CC never had reflux. It was pretty easy to start building routine. We did a couple of things in the very early time, and obviously this is anecdotal. I have no idea if this actually contributed to anything or if this was just like, oh, we did this and then this happened, so therefore it must have been that. It's like no. Like the main thing we did was for her, we noticed that we could set her down and she wouldn't really fuss at first, and so we did this thing to where when she was awake, we wouldn't constantly hold her. Like we would hold her for comfort and we would hold her for just like bonding stuff. But outside of that, we would actually have her like sitting in, we had this like little thing called a boat where she couldn't like fall off or anything like that. Even if she somehow rolled around at 3 weeks, which would be pretty much impossible, like she was safe, And we just constantly did that. So that way she could learn to self-soothe when she wasn't being held.
Yeah.
That was the theory. Did that work?
Kind of helping her with independent play and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think CC was naturally not as much of a Velcro baby, which definitely helped that. Whereas for our child, it's more of like she needs, if she's not being entertained, then she wants to be held. Like she wants to be near you. She's gotten better at time, but early on, it definitely was like,
it was rough.
She's being fed, she's being burped, then she's being held, and then she's going to sleep. You know what I mean? And then when she wakes up, it was a repeated cycle. There was not a lot of, let me set you down and really talk to you. We tried, tummy time. We definitely tried to push that, but she would do it for very, very short amount of times early on. She's obviously with age and time, she's so much better now. And it's so awesome to see her, obviously with her rolling over, she's gotten much better.
And, when your kiddo's in pain at all times, like yours, because of the reflux, like it makes perfect sense why she just wants to be held and connected with. Like,
yeah. But even then, that's what sucks too. Like even when you understand like what's going on from that perspective and maybe you can't do anything about it, like they're still in pain. So then you're sitting there, you have this screaming baby and then you're getting overstimulated. That's why my wife had a pair of the Apple AirPod Maxes or whatever, and they had like the sound
isolation.
What's the word I'm looking for? Yeah,
canceling.
Yeah, like the noise canceling. So that helps a lot. Like in those scenarios, you just kind of throw that on. So if she is kind of having those modes where she's just so upset, and we've already, done everything that we can, and we realize it's one of those situations where maybe she's just kind of having an episode with her reflex, and maybe it hurts, and she, there's literally nothing we can do. That kind of helps us be there for her without that, like, you're
for sure
literally triggering everything, you're putting me in like this heightened sense of like, I'm not even sure what the word is I'm looking for, but so I mean,
trauma.
She's
call
like,
that trauma.
So she'd like to be so to compare it sort of between our two experiences. We would have loved for her to have a little bit more independent play early on, and we could step away for a minute or 30 seconds or whatever to go do something. And at that age, they're not going anywhere, so you're a little bit less concerned about them getting into trouble. But that's why maybe our routine and mine and my wife's routine changed so much it kind of shaped a certain way because one of us had to be with the baby at all times for whatever reason. And so, that's where we just started taking advantage of those things. And we realized that fairly early on. And that kind of, I was about to segue into our next thing, but I'm not really sure. I'm not sure if we had, or if I had necessarily covered. I guess for my part, I mean,
do you want me to continue on with my routine, or do you want to just go to the next thing?
If you have more, so I'm much shorter in the journey, so that's kind of like where I am in my journey. Like we have our daily thing. There's not too much else. But.
So where was I? I think because so basically when we had that system where we started off with like laying her down, and basically we kind of were like thinking in the back of our heads, like we wanted to start some of the sleep training as early as possible without it actually being structured, if that makes sense. So like just for her to get used to it.
That's basically where we're at right now.
Yeah. And then as she continued to develop, it was very easy for us to move into the sleep training stuff. But really how our routine shifted, it was kind of chaotic. So we've moved 2 times since Cece was born. And so we moved, and we've had multiple travel aspects that have happened. So like we had to travel for Amanda's graduation. We traveled to visit her parents, and we have traveled on a cruise. Some people might call us crazy, but it was great.
Whatever works.
And so
you saying that out loud is like I'm thinking about like what we've done with our job. And it's like such a vast difference in like what you've been able to do versus like what we've done. It's kind of
absolutely
fun.
Yeah. And so like as we have developed, like our routine went from really, and when Amanda went back to work, like my morning routine was very rigid and still is very rigid and very, very structured, to where when I get up, I basically prepare Amanda's lunch. I make coffee. I make breakfast. Specifically, Amanda breakfast. I've been doing oats overnight for breakfast, and then basically we send her off, and then basically the rest of the day is structured by Cece's wake and night schedule. And then like time for myself, like I used to just try to wake up early before everyone. And then these last couple of months, I've been more staying up a little bit later because Amanda's been going to bed really early. And so like my like alone time, because I'm super introverted, and so I like need that recharge time.
Same for me.
Yeah, I use that time to help her recharge. And so our routine, it really like, I struggle a lot with the routine aspect of things in my own self. And I think a lot of it is because like a lot of my routine through my life has been based off of events or things that I've had to like attend. Right. And so having this like stay at home, very unstructured style is sometimes difficult for me.
Yeah, I can understand that for sure.
time can get away from me very easily. So it's like Cece will go down for a nap and I'll just like, jump on my phone for a second. And then all of a sudden I hear her crying like, wow, she slept for like 10 minutes. And I realize it's been an hour and a half, like, oh crap,
Yeah.
and
You're like, oh
so,
shoot, I was going to do this thing or
yeah,
whatever.
exactly. And so that is one thing I will admit, like I am working on getting better at, because there's a lot of stuff that, has to be done. And obviously, if I'm, since Cece's so mobile now, my ability to do things that I typically did when she was awake is just not there anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of one of the biggest changes that has happened. Like, even though we've done all this moving and all of that, like we've had routines established, then they get changed, established, changed, established. And that's because of environments, so on and so forth. But like really, since she started crawling, that has been probably the biggest shift in routine, because I no longer have her awake windows to do a bunch of things.
Yeah.
Because obviously
you gotta watch. I mean, I know you guys had the baby prison, but still, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to just like, you don't want to like,
you in shackles.
You don't want to just like, obviously when your child's awake too, like there's the amount of time that you spend literally with them, playing with them and doing stuff like that as well. And you don't always want your child to have to be in this specific area of the house, right? Like you want them to be able to explore the rest of the house. But then there's that level of, well, they're walking and you don't want them to get into stuff. You don't want them to, hurt themselves. So I can imagine that's
for sure.
Makes those wake windows more interesting for sure.
Yeah. Which I think moves us onto sleep training.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that was kind of like I didn't realize how well our topics actually kind of blended together and how I was going to accidentally kind of like go into it. Kudos to me for picking one, and kudos to you for the other one. As far as sleep training goes, and we've been kind of brushing on it, one of the things that my wife and I have kind of come to, you mentioned already, is that we want to get to a point, and my wife and I actually have like not completely different thoughts about this or beliefs, but we've realized, and maybe this is a father thing, I don't know, fathers out there, whatever, you can tell me if it's different, but most of the time it tends to be, or it seems to be, that when it comes to sleep training, the fathers are the ones that can sort of handle the sleep training aspect of it. And by that, I mean like the crying, right? Like if you're doing, like in our situation, the mom's on call, there's going to be a level of crying. Now, it's not the full Ferber method where you let them cry it out forever, but the mom's on call is a weird kind of sort of like hybrid version of that, where it's like there's a little bit of crying, but it's not like an intense amount of crying, right? Yeah. And you're managing that, and you're letting your child know that you're there. And
to be very clear in this, I think this is a very important distinction, is that there is crying because they're sad and just want to be picked up, and there's crying out of distress. And so when we talk about crying, I want to be very crystal clear that we are talking about crying at being upset and want to be picked up, not the distress cry. That's a totally different thing. So I just want to make sure that's very clear as we talk about this.
Yeah. Which I think is why doing something like a mom's on call method or something like that is a better route to go, because you're not typically letting them get to that really distressed mode most of the time. I'm not saying all babies are the same, but and my experience so far, we haven't fully gotten it. We've tried a couple times, but we haven't really gotten into it. And you had kind of mentioned it earlier, where we haven't built an actual routine. We're still kind of loosey-goosey with it, but we're messing with it a little bit. We're trying to get her used to being in the bassinet, or with her crib if we can't, but her bassinet at least in the room. She's done it a couple times. She's shown the capacity to be able to sleep on her own for longer than 30 minutes, right? Like we've seen her do that multiple times. So we know she has it in her. So we have to just, the consistency is one of the biggest things that you can do for your child, especially if you're doing any form of training or anything like that. It's just consistency. But yeah, my wife actually just mentioned this a couple days ago, or like a day ago, that that might have been this morning, honestly. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh, it was this morning. She decided that she wanted to wait until about 6 months to establish a hard schedule. And I was like, that's quite a long time. Like you can start getting a pretty decent schedule run. Like my head was like 4 months. I wanted to try to get through this first sleep regression to then really kind of establish an actual routine. And I've read too that people say, they don't say you have to, but they're saying if you were already looking at doing a sleep training, you could do it at 3 months and then know that the regression is probably coming, but you still try to adhere to it as much as possible so that when you come out the other side, it's not like you're doing this whole new thing again. You still kind of have this schedule that you're sort of adhering to. And so the baby's not thrown way out of whack and you're doing this whole new routine. So that was just one of the suggestions that I had. So in my mind, that's where we kind of were or are at, where we were kind of doing a loose schedule. It's not a hard schedule, but trying to prep her for independent sleep, getting her on somewhat of a schedule, but not hard sticking to it. We're still going off of her cues. Yeah. And then we'd probably hit the 4-month regression, which again, there's no guarantee that our child's even going to have the regression. You don't know that. I don't know what the percentage is of. I don't even know if there is a statistic that says, hey, this is how many children actually have a sleep regression versus don't. But I typically kind of prepare for the worst, and then if it doesn't happen, then hooray, it didn't happen. So yeah, that's kind of like where my head was at. And then my wife kind of talked to me or mentioned it to me that she wanted to wait further. And she feels like most of that stems from the fact that she doesn't think that she would be able to handle any of the crying. Like in my opinion, I would be able to. I know that if we needed to put her down and she was going to cry for 3 minutes, I would be able to mentally handle that. I know I can, right? Because I know that there's a goal that we're trying to achieve. We're not just doing it to be negligent and be terrible parents. Like where there's a goal in mind. Obviously there's a level of like, hey, this thing isn't working, let's not push it. But overall, like there is a goal that you're trying to achieve. So therefore in my head, I can sort of rationalize that and be like, okay, I can handle it. I don't enjoy it, but I can handle that. And so my wife is like, I don't think I can handle it at all. She's like, she said today, I think she joked, she was like, she's like, I might have to go get a hotel. And I was like, shoot, we're not paying for a hotel. I was like, you're about to go sleep in the car. That's what you're about to do.
Get your bed set up in the garage.
Go sleep with our cat in the garage. So yeah, that's kind of, we obviously still have some more talking to do about the timing and stuff exactly. Because I feel like 6 months is like, it's just further down the road. Like especially because she's going back to work. I really want to like try to get sort of her being a little bit more independent, her getting on more of not a super rigid, but just somewhat of a schedule. And I want to start working towards those things. And so, I think that's just something that's a little bit still in flux for us, but that's kind of where we currently are with our baby just being a little bit over 3 months, or just like technically at 3 months, but about to be 14 weeks, which is always a fun thing. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interesting thing to kind of sort of manage. And how do you want to approach that? Because I feel like dads and moms typically are on different ends of the scale. Yeah.
And so for us, it's kind of funny. Amanda was the one that said, hey, we should get her on like a legit schedule. And she was given Mom's on Call book, I think as a early gift or something. I can't remember by who, but it was also one of the best gifts that we've gotten, which was like a 0 to 6 months sleep training. And we obviously didn't do any of the early stuff. We didn't even touch it because that was just a little much for us. Like that was like, what's the purpose? What's the point? Like we were kind of already naturally, like I was saying, like sitting down, like trying to focus on teaching her how to self-soothe within reason. Not just because we just didn't want to hold her, because we loved holding her, but she was a very content baby, and she always let us know when she was sad and wanted to be helped, and so it was very easy in that way. But we probably started. I'm trying to remember the timeline. I think we started sleep training with her at around 8 to 12 weeks, so around 2 to 3 months. And really the sleep training started off with just us trying to stick to a schedule but it would constantly shift a little bit as we were trying to learn what her natural cycles were. And as we were trying to adjust them a little bit, not too much, but a little bit to fit a system that we know typically works. And she would usually wake up once in the middle of the night to feed, and we continued doing that. There was one moment when we realized that a lot of that middle of the night feeding wasn't because she needed it. It was because she found it comforting. And so we realized that she was starting to want to eat for comfort versus wanting to eat because she was genuinely hungry. Yeah. And so as we stuck to the schedule, it took us probably a couple weeks to kind of get used to it. And it took Cece a little bit to get used to it, but it was magical. Like once we started to establish a schedule, she slept better. She had much better naps, and she just was more consistent and more happy when she was awake. With the night feeding, we eventually there's a moment when Amanda was dead tired, and so she was out, right? And I had the monitor on like a lower volume. So what I did was I took the monitor out of the room because the apartment we were in, weirdly enough, was incredibly soundproof, for better or worse. And so we couldn't really hear Cece in the other room. And so I just went out with the monitor and then did kind of the moms I'll call thing where I tried to comfort her. And I did that, I think, for 1 or 2 nights. And again, when I say that we were very lucky with our child's temperament, this is what I mean. Took 1 to 2 nights, and then she slept through the night from then on out. And then
it will be nice.
I know, right?
It will be nice.
And so we obviously there's been some regressions. There's been a lot of things, especially when we travel. Even now, like when we went on our cruise a couple months ago, like she had been sleeping through the night consistently up until us being on the cruise. And we think it was because we were in the same room with her. And so she would wake up consistently 2 to 3 to 4 times. And a lot of that also had to do with the fact that she was on a very irregular nap schedule because, like we said, we made it a point that we weren't going to originally stick to a sleep schedule if it meant impacting major opportunities and knowing that it wouldn't really hurt her that much. And so it was funny. She never contact napped, but on the cruise, she contact napped a lot. And it took almost like a week to get her back on our normal schedule once we got back from the cruise. But for the most part, like, that's the thing, is the schedule has been a nice safety / lifeline for her, to where we can be pretty consistent. Like we've had moments where we've gone off the schedule a little bit, like basically allow her to sleep in or allow her to change when her wake window is. But we did it for about, 3 weeks-ish. And we just realized, really, and this is more recent, that like it wasn't really helping her. Like she was a little more grumpy during the day. Her naps were much more inconsistent. And so we started waking her up consistently at 7 a.m. And since then, her naps are now much more predictable. Because now we know that her first nap, she'll sleep for an hour and a half. Her second nap, she'll sleep for about an hour to hour and a half. And then she's happy for most of the rest of the day.
Dude, we went back. There was a couple of things that you mentioned that kind of reminded me of something, but we went back and forth a lot. Well, not a lot, but a little bit, where we were trying different things where we were really following like her sleep cues and kind of letting her nap for as long as she wanted at first, because you don't really know that you should kind of be trying to cap their naps at first. So I remember there was one time she napped for like 3 hours or something like that, and it was
beautiful.
Like, oh, like it was like she just randomly slept for like 3 hours.
Yeah,
and it was like, whoa, she slept for 3 hours. This is crazy. Like, oh, this is happening. But then it was like, but then it messed up the rest of the day and the night and stuff like that, and it was really bad. And then we kind of learned like, okay, well, we need to cap her naps at 2 hours max. Like, no matter what, her naps can never be more than 2 hours. And so that was like the next phase. And while we were going through that, we were sort of deciding between, should we be following this sort of like schedule where we're waking her up, or, you know, we kind of switched to a thing where we were like, okay, you're going to nap for 45 minutes and then we're going to wake you up. Doesn't matter if you're still ready to if you're still sleeping, we're going to wake you up and this is what we're going to do. Yeah. And so we started doing that, and it still seemed like she was really struggling. And so then we kind of went back on that because we were like, this doesn't seem to be working. Like we gave it time, because most things too with a kid is, you have to give it a little bit of time. You can't just do something for one day and then it's like, okay, it worked. Yahoo. It's like, no, usually you got to give it at least a week, like a solid week. And then you can make your decision. So we tried doing the scheduled thing for about a week, like waking her up ourselves, not letting her sleep out her naps and capping it at 2 hours. We would wake her up at, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever time we wanted to wake her up. Right. And it just seemed like she was grumpier at night. We were having problems with the nighttime sleeps and all those things. And I'm like,
makes sense.
I don't know. So this just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it's working. So then we kind of went back to letting her sleep out as long as she wanted, but still keeping those naps capped at 2 hours. And then we kind of noticed that she was doing better at night, and then in turn was doing better throughout the day. And then we were getting a little bit more consistent naps and a happier baby in general. And obviously with time too, especially with the reflex baby, for anybody out there that has a reflex baby, time is your best friend. Like as time goes on and they get older and they develop more, obviously dealing with, I forget what the part of the body is, that the flap that opens up so that the milk can come out. Once that grows, and then you don't have problems with the reflex coming up with the milk and stuff coming up and burning them. You have that. And then some of the issues that you have with sleep that come from that, time is going to be your best friend where, as they get older, some of those things will naturally start getting better, which is what's happened with her. Is some of those things she's getting better. She's developing more. So things have gotten easier. And so now we're finally at a point where a lot of her wake window, she's a lot happier. She's laughing. She's giggling. Most of the time now when she's awake, she's happy. Whereas before it was like a weird split where it was like she was happy and then some reflex stuff would happen and now she's pissed off and then, it's clingy and blah, blah, blah. And then it just turns into like a nightmare. You know what I mean? So, so we kind of flopped that, and that's kind of how that's played out for us. One of the other things that I thought was pretty funny that you mentioned, you were talking about like your apartment being like soundproof. One of the things that we deal with to this day is not necessarily that the room's soundproof, but in our rooms, in both rooms. So in Sienna's room, we have the white noise machine that plays. And so you can't really hear too much when you're talking in there if you need to pop in the room to talk. And if you transfer to our bedroom, we have the white noise machine, we have a fan, we have a air purifier going. So it's all these, and then sometimes my wife got this little shush thing, which I guess I could have mentioned as one of the things that we got, but it's like a thing that auto shushes for you, because we would have to shush her and then your mouth would get dry and you're like, shh. You're like, I need water. So she bought this little thing that shushes for you to help soothe her.
That's funny.
And it sounds like Darth Vader through the monitor. Literally just sounds like Darth Vader's like, and I always joke about it.
That's great.
It's creepy through the monitor.
I bet.
Yeah, it's just I'm like, ooh. But yeah, so it's funny looking on the outside, but it's so annoying when I go into she's laying down in the room and she's with the baby sleeping, and she'll text me and she'll be like, hey, I need help, or hey, can you come in here and do something? And so then I come in there and it's dark too, because we have the room dark for the baby and stuff so they can sleep. And just all these sounds, like just it's just as you come into the room. So you can't hear shit.
A wind tunnel.
Yeah, you can't hear shit. And my wife is trying, and then my wife is trying to talk low to me because she doesn't want to wake the baby up. So she's like, I'm like, what? I'm also like, what? Exactly. Like I'm like, but in my head, I'm like, what? And then I like whispered to her, and then she can't hear me. And so we're both like, you just can't hear anything. So eventually someone's like, can you grab the spit rag or something, like whatever it is that she needs me to do, or grab my plate or refill my water or whatever it is. And then, but we start getting annoyed with each other because she's like, I'm just trying to get you to understand what I'm trying to say. And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to hear you with all this sound around me? I'm like, that we can't hear shit. So like when you text me to come in the room, tell me what it is that you need me to do before I walk into that room. Because if you try to talk to me in that room, I have to literally get my ear like right next to her mouth so that I can hear what is happening. It sounds insane in there. I'm making it sound like literally we're about to go deaf. We're not, but it's enough to where you can't just really casually talk and hear each other well enough. So it's just like this kind of like funny joke, but yet we also get annoyed because we're like trying to have this conversation and not wake the baby up, and then end up sometimes kind of waking her up because one of us will get mad. But usually once she's like in bed for the night, that's the one thing I've noticed. Like once the baby's circadian rhythm sort of kicks in and they understand night from day, at least from our view, once she knows it's nighttime and it's like bedtime, it's actually pretty hard to wake her up. Like she'll move, and she'll make noises and stuff like that, but like full on wake up, like I'm ready to be up, like that rarely happens. So it's kind of hard to actually put her in that mode. I can literally, like, I did it last night. I was sitting in the chair. She had to be in the other room. She had to be in her room. And I was like, man, my arm, because she lays like perfectly on like a vein or something. And then like my arm falls asleep. And so I'm like, I got to move you. And so I'll literally just like flip her over and then she'll just be like, and just kind of, she'll stay asleep through it. You know what I mean? And sometimes she has a little bit of gas and I'll kind of help try to push some gas out of her. And she's like, and then just stays asleep. You know what I mean? Like I'm realizing that that's pretty good. So it's funny. So luckily we usually don't wake her up, but my wife and I just get annoyed with each other when that happens.
It's fair. It's funny. Yeah. Yeah, thankfully, like, CC is a hard sleep, and I think it's just because our dogs like to bark at every single thing that, comes right. And, like, she just got used to it early on, and so she thankfully sleeps. Sleeps through a lot of noise. But, no, thankfully, we don't have quite the wind tunnel effect. We do have a white noise machine, but thankfully it's not like a wind tunnel. That sounds rough.
Yeah. Well, it's just because we want to have the air purifier for all of us. And I have to have a fan thanks to you, because when we were kids, I never used to sleep with a fan. You were the person that introduced me to a fan when we were kids, and you had those industrial fans. So you had the big, like that thing was.
The metal fan that was like, it's
the
beautiful.
Then you'd hear like the metal rattle a little bit here and there. But
it was great.
So you were the one that got me into needing a fan, and then I'm pretty sure I'm the one that then got my wife into needing a fan, and so now we have to have sound. So going on vacation is like the worst, because it's like, how are we going to have a fan?
So we literally have, we use this app. So I randomly have this other device, but we literally have this app that's it's a free app, just like Brown Noise. And literally like we actually use this instead of a fan at night, because it sounds so close to a fan, and it's consistent. It doesn't have the weird, like every 5 seconds.
I definitely could agree with that, because I have the white noise machine is on my side of the bed now, and so it's extra loud, because for some reason in our room the sound doesn't carry across to the other side very well. So if you're standing on the other side of the bed and you turn the white noise machine on, you can't hear it very well. So you want to make sure it's loud enough that it's kind of blocking out that. I mean, the whole point of a white noise machine is that it's drowning the noise out in the room, or technically outside, so that if you need to do the dishes or you need to do something, you're not waking your baby up. That's that's the point of having a white noise machine. And it helps kind of soothe them a little bit as well. And so it's on my side of the bed, so it's a little bit extra loud than it probably should be for me, because it's right next to me. But for baby and for my wife, it's just right where it should be. And so my wife literally has to, like, if she needs me to get a bottle, she has to like smack me, because there's no way you're going to be able to talk to me. Like, I'm just like, and then sometimes it'll happen. She'll lean over and be like, "Mama," and I'm like, "Huh?" And she gets mad. I'm like, I'm like, that machine is in my ear. I can't hear it.
I can't hear it. That's funny.
I'm like dead asleep too. I wake up. I'm just like, oh, what? So it's just funny.
Yeah, basically what you did is you kind of sleep trained yourself with the white noise so well that it's hard to shake out of the routine.
Dude, it's bad. Like, I'm just like, I'm out, dude. I'm surrounded by audio. I'm basically in one of those sleep chambers or whatever that is, like where you put you in water. And you're just like floated. That's me at nighttime now. So she has to like smack me really hard. And I'm like, and then funny. Sometimes I just barely feel something, and she's not even trying to get me to get a bottle. Like, she's like, hey, can you like turn the heat down or something? It could be something else. Yeah. Or she'll be like, oh, something dropped on the ground. Can you grab it? And I'm just like, must get bottle. I just hop out of bed and sprint out to get the bottle. She's like, I didn't need the bottle. I'm like, oh. I'm like, oops.
It's like, sorry, you have me trained so well.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm yeah, exactly.
That is funny.
Sorry, I totally cut you off. I don't know if you were finishing about the sound that you had, like you were talking about on vacation with the app, where you have like
like basically we use that app even now, like for our room, and so basically we when we go on vacation, it's very easy for us to maintain that sound because we both have the exact same app and we use the exact same system. So it's always almost identical noise. And so it helps a lot. But yeah, no, it makes like going on vacation way easier instead of having to, because I used to, when I would go places, I would lug a fan with me. I would literally take a freaking box fan and carry it with me. Like, yep, I need this. Not because I like the air. It's because I just need the noise.
Yeah. I know. It's your fault, man. I can't sleep without it now.
You're welcome. Our
child will probably be the same.
Yep. So.
But yeah, I mean, I think that covers mostly, without us going off on too much of a tangent, but I think that's mostly kind of what we wanted to cover for the day. Glad everybody, joined us on this fun journey for today, talking about our postpartum experience and routines and sleep and all that stuff. I think the next point. Sorry.
I was gonna say, and next time that you see us, you will either see us be ecstatic because the Seahawks won, or very sad. So
it might be really somber.
Yeah. And before we end, I do want to mention one thing because I think this is a funny thing. It's something I should have mentioned about like this week and I think I mentioned last time that, Amanda is a huge Patriots fan. So tomorrow's the big day. It's when we have to implement our ground rules so we're not obnoxious to each other. And it's going to be a very special moment. She also got a Super Bowl 50
I know. I'm sad. I wish I could get one. Dude. I wanted to throw back so bad.
I know. We literally, it was because we got a decent tax return and we literally set aside money for the shirts. Yeah. We're like, gotta buy it. But yeah. And so we, it's going to be a very enjoyable moment. So you'll either see us ecstatic and happy, it might also be energized,
very sad and depressing moment too. So.
Yeah, exactly. Or you'll see us very sad and you'll hear, and of course you'll see like me just, extra sad because my lovely wife will probably rub it in my face. But
I'm gonna be stressed all day until the game's over. I'm gonna not eat like most of the day.
Oh my
goodness. I can't eat during games. Like most people are like, let's have like a little party and let's eat some stuff. Let's have some hand food, some snack foods. Nope. I just drink my water or whatever it is. And that's it.
Funny.
That's all I can do during the games.
We literally have like an entire menu planned for tomorrow because we're going to make a bunch of games. My wife makes this lovely buffalo chicken dip, which weirdly enough does not use buffalo sauce. It's crazy, but it tastes like buffalo. Anyway, it's a different thing. But like she makes that, and then I'll probably make some like stuffed mushrooms. And it's just going to be a fun experience. But I'm sorry that you can't enjoy food.
It's also kind of like weird because basically it's just going to be me at the house because my wife is very she knows with football, like especially when I'm watching Seahawks games. If I watch all games, but if she needs, I mean, even if it was a Seahawks game and my wife needed help, whatever, I would obviously step away to help. But for overall, she knows, especially in big games going through the playoffs and stuff, like she knows like. Okay, that 3-hour chunk, he's going to be doing this. If it's halftime, if I need help, he's going to do it. But for the most part, she's a great sport about it. Yeah. She'll pop in and kind of watch the game. She'll bring the baby out, and she'll, Sienna likes football, apparently, which is awesome.
I love it.
And so she'll kind of pop in and watch it. But for the most part, she knows that, she's going to be handling the baby for that chunk of time. It's just going to be me out there just stressing and drinking water. Like, just, that's it. Because there's no point. Like, she's not going to she doesn't have the time to make a bunch of food and stuff like that. So,
no, it's so fair.
My family, my in-laws and stuff, nobody was like, let's do a Super Bowl party. Everyone's just mad that the Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl. So, I'm just going to be by myself.
I really want to go to a place where everyone's going to be rooting for the opposite team.
even if they were going to have a Super Bowl party, I saw this video recently where it was talking about stuff like this, where it's like, I don't need to go to I don't need to go to a party because I don't want to go to a place where I'm the only person that cares about the game. Yeah. And I don't need you talking while the game's going, but then you're not talking while the commercials are going. And I'm trying to be focused on the game. So I thought it was this funny thing where that's totally around. Like, I'm not there to be like, ha ha ha, or have someone else be like, even my wife will do it. Like, she'll come in and let's just say like during the game, the Patriots like score a touchdown. Right. And she'll be like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, don't you say nothing. I'm like, this is bad. We're not happy about this. And she'd be like, oh, that was a crazy play. I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was a terrible play. So I'm just like, you know what? It's probably best if it is just me and like Seahawks fans, right? So
there you go.
I'll
That's
just be texting
really
you
funny.
tomorrow. That's what will be happening.
Yep, and I'll be hiding the screen from my wife, especially if the Seahawks are doing really good.
Oh yeah,
she's not like, shut up. No, literally, we have a thing. We cannot have any phone calls during the Super Bowl. Like I can't call my family. She can't call her family. We can text, but we can't call. That's like one of the ground rules, because like we know that, you know, my family, obviously all Seahawks fans, Amanda's family, all Patriots fans. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So, all right, man. Well, I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your day and week. And obviously, as we're recording this, the first episode isn't out yet. So obviously these will all start launching well after the Super Bowl. Where sadly there's more back-end stuff that has to be done before we can start posting them. But once those are done, we'll be able to be more consistent with releasing them close to the time that they're actually recorded. So just a heads up.
Yeah, I did also want to call out to for anybody that's watching, any viewers out there, if you have any like specific topics that you would like for us to cover, please leave that in the comments. I'd love to, love for us to talk over some things that, viewers have suggested. And along with that, if you have any questions, we plan to have segments in the future where, we're answering questions. We have sort of Q&A session and segment or whatever that's going to look like. So please feel free to leave any sort of questions or topics or anything in the comments. We'd love to hear from you, or anything about what you enjoyed from today's conversation or what you didn't like. It helps us kind of grow and helps us understand, what we should be doing and what we should be targeting in these conversations and in these episodes. So love to get some feedback. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Make sure you do all the wonderful things like and subscribe, all those cliche things that YouTubers like to ask for. So please make sure you do all of those. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it helps us out. So, all right. Love you all. See you next time.
Catch you later.